Hello everybody, welcome to another Nephilim builds. Today we're gonna sparkle and shine as Glimmer from She-Ra, Princesses of Power. As I was keeping in mind that these videos are about capturing the spirit of the character rather than capturing their abilities perfectly. With that said, let's start with the ability scores. Using the standard point through with the 15 to Charisma, Glimmer is a delight and becomes a very respectable leader. After that is the 14 Dexterity, you've got to be quick on your feet in a fight. Up next is the 13 in Strength, she's not afraid to throw hands, and then the 12 in Charisma for HP. But put the 10 to Intelligence and then Dump Wisdom. That girl has some serious self-doubt issues. For species, Glimmer is the daughter of a literal winged lady named Angela, so I'm just gonna say she's an Azamar. We get Dark Vision at 60 feet, Celestial Resistance, Healing Hands, and the Light Cantrip. We make a custom background because Noble doesn't give us what we need, putting our increases into Charisma and Strength. We pick Athletics and Acrobatics for Scales, Painter Supplies for Giggles, and take the Spellfire Spark Feat. Moving on to class, N.D. Stevenson himself said that Glimmer would be a sorceress, so that's where we're starting. We get Charisma and Constitution saving throws, pick Arcana and Persuasion for Scales, and be proficient with simple weapons. At level 1 we get Innate Sorcery and 4 cantrips. We'll take Dancing Lights for some lights, Prestidigitation for effects, Blade Ward to fill a slot, and True Strike. That will come up later. We'll also get 2 spells taking Spellfire Flare for some lasers as well as Shield. Does she ever make a barrier? Can't remember, didn't have time to rewatch, and couldn't find any videos showcasing her powers. And don't get me started on the wiki again. Hey wiki writers, you realize this show is about to disappear, right? Could you at least try to preserve as much information in as accurate detail as possible before that happens? Anyway, we're now going to multiclass the Bard, getting Perception, the Drum, and Light Armor. At level 1 we get Bardic Inspiration 2 cantrips, taking Starry Wisp for a laser and Vicious Mockery for some sass. It's a queer show, everyone's sassy. We'll also get 4 spells taking Color Spray for distraction, Longside for speed, Silvery Barbs for more sass, and Detect Magic. At level 2 we get Jack of all trades and expertise in Arcana and Persuasion, as well as our Celestial Revelation. Her wings are vestigial, so we'll just go with Inner Radiance. We'll also take Fairy Fire to throw some sparkles on people. Have I ever taken this spell before? I'm not sure. At level 3 we'll get our Bard College, taking the College of Dance for dazzling footwork. Like I said, Glimmer's not afraid to throw hands. Still a bad subclass. We'll also take Zone of Truth. Took way too long for me to decide what route I wanted to take to get this. At level 4 we'll take the Fate Touch feats, Rounding Charisma, and pick Hex for more damage. We'll also take Message for some comms and Enhance ability for Super Princess feats. At level 5 we get the 8 Inspiration and Font of Inspiration, and take 8 for more HP and Magic Weapon. Magic Weapon? But we're a punchy type. Not quite. We're now going to make a brief dip into Paladin to fill out the build, getting medium armor, shields, and all weapons. This was another possible way to get Zone of Truth, but I couldn't pick an oath. At level 1 we get Lay on Hands and Weapon Mastery, picking the Quarterstaff. Why do you think we took True Strike? Punching will be an option if we're unarmed, and she relied on it long enough to justify adding it, but we're mostly going to be using it with our Dance Bard feature. We'll also get 2 spells taking Divine Favor to put some light in our staff, and Shield of Faith for more AC. At level 2 we'll get Paladin Smite and our fighting style, picking Great Weapon Fighting. Now I just want to point out something that I noticed about this fighting style while I was building this character. It says that you can treat any 1 or 2 on a damage die from an attack made with a melee weapon you are holding with 2 hands as a 3. It doesn't say that this only applies to the actual weapon's damage die, or that it can only apply to 1 damage die. Granted, that is most likely the rules as intended, it's just not rules as written. Something to think about. We'll also take Compelled Duel to 1v1 a bitch. Back to Sorcery, at level 2 we'll get Font of Magic and Meta Magic, taking Quicken Spell and Empowered Spell. We'll also take Expeditious Retreat to book it, and Featherfall because what is fall damage? At level 3 we'll get our Sorceress Origin. Glimmer is the most explicitly magic of the princesses, so we'll go with Spellfire Sorcery. Also, since this is the first time I'm using this subclass on this channel, I want to make a statement. As this is clearly meant to be the thematic successor to Divine Soul, this is what I'm going to be using in place of Divine Soul from now on. Anyway, we'll get Spellfire Burst as well as Cure Wounds, Guiding Bolt, Lesser Restoration, and Scorching Ray from our Origin. We'll also take Blindness, Deafness for a Flashbang, and Levitate for some levitation. Don't actually remember her using this, but the wiki says she does. Does it say when, where, who it's used on, or what it does? Nope, and soon that knowledge will be lost to the ages. At level 4 we'll take the Spellfire Adept feat, Bumping Charisma. We'll also take Friends to fill the slot in Pyrotechnics for a different flashbang. At level 5 we'll get Sorceress Restoration as well as Aura Vitality and Dispel Magic from our Origin. We'll also take Daylight for lots of light and Laurel Silver Lance for a beam. It's not radiant damage, but how often am I going to get to use it? At level 6 we'll get Absorb Elements and take Protection from Energy for resistances, and at level 7 we'll get Sorcery Incarnate. We'll also get Fire Shield and Wall of Fire from our Origin, ignore both, and take Spellfire Storm. I'm getting to use a lot of these today. At level 8 we'll take the Tough Feat as well as Backlash. At level 9 we'll get Creative Restoration and Flame Strike, ignore the first. We'll also take Far Step for some Rapid Teleportation and Teleportation Circle. Helps to be familiar with where you're going. At level 10 we'll get 2 more Meta Magic, picking Seeking Spell and Twin Spell. We'll also take Mending to fill a slot and Dimension Door for a mid-range teleport. At level 11 we'll take Sunbeam for a Mega Laser, and at level 12 we'll take the Boon of Spell Recall, capping Charisma. I'm sure you were expecting dimensional travel, but that would make Misty Step redundant. And as I've said once before, I don't want to get into the habit of swapping spells mid-build. Just take Misty Step as a normal spell, pick a different feat than Fate Touched, and then you can take the BDT. Lastly, at level 13 we'll take Teleport. Now that we're level 20, we finally have our modifiers. Our AC with Dazzling Footwork is 17, which coincidentally is the same as if we wore Half Plate. In fact, if you take Defense instead of Great Weapon Fighting, your AC will be 18, giving you an excuse to rock Glimmer's Battle Fit. Our movement speed is 30, and our average HP is 151 with 2d10, 5d8, and 13d6 hit dice. And with that, we are done. Now what can this spell do? To start, we've got multiple ranged and AoE damage options with one of the least resisted damage types in the game. And with all of our teleportation options, it's really easy to make use of that range. We've also got one hell of a swing in melee with True Strike, Divine Favor, and max level Divine Smites. For weaknesses, a Dumped Wisdom is always a pain to deal with. Investing in both unarmed combat and weapon is also redundant, especially since we're pulling from the worst boxer in the system. 3 score minimums is also tricky to balance, and we only managed to get 1 boon. Weaknesses aside, this princess still has plenty of power. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you'd like to support my channel, there's a link to my Patreon down in the description. Patrons get 2-day early access to my videos, access to exclusive content, and access to my new Discord channel. All tiers are equal, pay as much as you want. Let me know what you thought of this video down in the comments, and I'll see you all next time when I make Wonder Woman from DC Comics.